Let me tell you, if you ever wanted to kick Gary Coleman's severed head around a shopping mall, shit, this is the game for you. Greetings, cocksuckers. It's Rufus. By now, I've thoroughly covered 1997's Postal, a darkly satirical isometric shooter about a guy who goes batshit insane and embarks on a murderous rampage through a small town in Arizona. The game predictably generated a lot of controversy due to its gratuitous violence as well as its tongue-in-cheek attitude about it, and therefore became a big hit with assholes like me all over the world. I've also covered its 2 increasingly goofy expansion packs, which saw our genocidal protagonist travel to exotic destinations like exclusive country clubs and even downtown Tokyo. But I've been dragging my feet a lot on covering the sequel because there's just so goddamn much to talk about. But I'm stuck in quarantine, so without further ado, let's take a look at possibly the most intentionally weird and offensive video game of all time, 2003's Postal 2. Yeah, we're all gonna need a shower after this one. Let's dive right in. Postal 2, like the first game, takes place in the fictional town of Paradise, Arizona, and opens with the fly-through of the city, which, it turns out, is chock full of dickheads.
Here's one for your mother!
With no explanation of what happened after the events of the last game, we find the postal dude living on the outskirts of town in a shitty little trailer with a real bitch of a wife.
You were the one who insisted on relocating for that stupid video game job.
Yeah, well, crack doesn't by itself, you know.
It's Monday morning and everything is already going wrong. First, his air conditioner breaks. Then, to add insult to injury, his dog Champ takes a piss on his shoes and escapes the yard. And then his car won't start. So, in an understandably foul mood, he sets off into the town of Paradise to run some errands.
I can tell this is going to be an interesting day.
Unlike the first game, Postal 2 is a 3D open-world game seen from a first-person perspective. You can wander freely around Paradise doing whatever you want for as long as you want. But, in order to progress through the story, you have to complete a list of boring, unremarkable daily tasks. For example, on the first day, you simply have to pick up your paycheck from work, cash it at the local bank, and then buy some milk. And you can literally do just that. Walk to your job at Running with Scissors, the real-life developers of the game, pick up your paycheck from actual CEO Vince Desi, then walk to your bank, Fee of America, wait in a long, boring line to cash your check.
I'd like to cash this pitiful and embarrassing check, please.
And finally, stop by the local Middle Eastern mini-mart to grab some milk.
Did someone slaughter a goat in here? No, seriously, I want to know.
Wait in another long, boring line to pay for it, and finally return home. That's it. You just beat day 1. But the entire time you're out there just trying to get through your shitty day, you keep running into incredibly annoying people and situations. Besides the fact that everyone in town is a rude asshole.
Oh, idiot!
You get fired from your job.
But I just started yesterday.
Then, in a nod to the original game, Running with Scissors gets attacked by a group of violent video game protesters who turn out to be pretty fucking violent themselves. Then, while you're trying to cash your check, the bank gets robbed.
This is a stick-up!
And finally, the little mini-mart where you get your milk turns out to be a secret hideout for Al-Qaeda. Hey game, your early 2000s is showing. Of course, you have the option of simply ignoring all the assholes around you and just running away when shit gets dangerous. In fact, the entire game can be beaten without committing a single violent act. But there's also a wide variety of interesting weaponry just lying around fucking everywhere, so you could also choose to let off some steam and... The second you decide to go full Postal, the game ceases to be a boring walking simulator full of annoying characters and turns into an incredibly twisted and violent shooter extravaganza. Just like the original game, but from a first-person perspective. The objectives don't change at all, you still have to complete your run-of-the-mill daily errands to beat the game, but how you do so is completely up to you. Like, feel free to just shoot Vince Desi in the fucking face. The other Running with Scissors employees won't mind, I swear. You could also choose to simply rob the bank yourself rather than wait in line, which will cause the police to rush in so you have to shoot your way out. Or just steal the damn milk, but the security gate will snap shut and the owner and all of his terrorist buddies will try to kill you. So the violent lunatic approach is usually a bit harder, but also a lot more fun. In terms of gameplay, we're talking about pretty standard first-person shooter stuff. You can run around town killing the hell out of whoever you please and raiding random homes and businesses for supplies. Besides weapons and ammo, you can also find body armor to protect you and health packs to fix your injuries.
I feel better already.
There are, of course, obligatory explosive barrels lying around everywhere for no reason, as well as combustible gas lines and even vehicles, which can't actually be driven in-game, so they're pretty much just there to get blown up.
All the cars in this town seem to be useless exploding props.
You have a pretty badass front kick straight out of Duke Nukem 3D, which can be used to kick open doors and bust through windows, or even get free money out of ATMs. Or just to randomly kick people in the face. The game features a basic physics engine too, so you can kick objects around, which can be used to get to hard-to-reach areas, and of course, boot around the body parts of your victims. Man, that never gets old. You also have the ability to pee on things, which can actually be used to put yourself out if you're on fire, as well as a suicide button, which is totally pointless but pretty spectacular. As you progressively get on the wrong side of more and more types of people, they'll start spontaneously shooting at you in the street, and you get reminders on your map of which folks to avoid, like protesters or rednecks. Fortunately for you, law enforcement will usually swoop in and take them out pretty quickly if you don't handle it first. In fact, the town of Paradise seems to have a ridiculous amount of police officers per capita, and even entire SWAT teams and the National fucking Guard on later levels, and they will immediately murder the shit out of anybody they see committing a crime. Unfortunately, this includes you, and you have a wanted level which appears when the law is after you. It goes down over time though, so if you want to turn down the heat, you can just find a place to hide for a minute until it goes away. If you don't hide or fight back, the cops will arrest you.
You have the right to remain silent.
Hey, it's not my fault. Book the kid with the keyboard.
And throw you in jail. But this can be pretty easily escaped by setting off the fire alarm, which opens all the cell doors and then booking it out of there with all the other criminals. You have a pretty extensive inventory and can pick up a ton of useful items like various types of food which you can carry around and use to restore your health.
Ah, that's the stuff.
Or dog treats, which allow you to befriend local puppers, who will then follow you around and attack anyone who tries to fuck with you. These can also be eaten for health if you really need it. Or the fish finder, which acts as your radar to show you who's nearby. You can even find upgrades for it, like the Piranha plugin, which shows who around you is carrying a weapon, or the Largemouth plugin that detects law enforcement. Probably the most useful thing you can grab is a police uniform.
I am the law.
This causes everyone to suddenly be very nice to you, including the groups like violent video game protesters who are supposed to hate your guts. And even other cops who will let you get away with pretty much anything. Social commentary much? So with all of these abilities at your disposal, you can cause basically unlimited violence and destruction all over town. Or none at all if you prefer, but certain areas of the game will always be blocked off until you complete your list of errands and advance to the next day. The game is divided into 5 days, Monday through Friday, and I actually played it over 5 days, Monday through Friday, which was pretty fun. I highly recommend it. On each day, you get a humorous newspaper telling you the various goings-on in town, as well as a to-do list. We've already covered Monday's epic adventure to go get paid and buy some milk. On Tuesday, you are first tasked with going to confession, so you walk to your church, Our Lady of Insatiable Avarice, and confess your sins.
Bless me, Father, for I have really sinned. Really? I'm not kidding here.
But then the church is suddenly attacked by terrorists, and you get caught in the crossfire between them and a bunch of gun-toting priests.
It's go time, you pajama-wearing pagans.
You then have to get people to sign a petition, which turns out to be a petition to make whiny congressmen play violent video games, which is fucking hilarious. Then you have to return a library book, so you head on over to the Joseph R. McCarthy Public Library to return it. But the library is suddenly attacked by violent anti-book activists,
Sorry I'm late. Somebody blew up my car. Let's burn some books.
who proceed to set the entire place on fire, and you once again have to fight through a bunch of dickhead protesters to escape. Finally, you have to get an autograph from Gary Coleman, who's doing an appearance at the local mall. Worth noting here that the real Gary Coleman actually came in and did voice acting and motion capture for this game. Rest in peace, you fucking legend. Anyway, you get him to sign a copy of his book.
If I see you selling this on eBay, I will come to your house and kick your narrow ass.
But then the cops show up to arrest him.
Send out the former child actor. We have a warrant for his arrest.
Go back to the donut convention. I ain't going nowhere.
And a massive gun battle erupts between the police and Gary's crew, which you are, of course, welcome to join if you like. On Wednesday, your first goal is to pee on your father's grave of all things, so you go back to the church, which by now is a mosque called Our Lady of Infidel, head out back to the cemetery, find the grave, and do your business. But while doing so, you get knocked unconscious and kidnapped by rednecks.
I done busted up his head.
You wake up in a crate in an underground sex dungeon dressed up in a bondage suit straight out of Pulp Fiction.
Oh my god, I'm the damn Gimp.
So now you, gimp suit and all, have to fight your way through a bunch of rapey rednecks who apparently had you hidden in the basement of a massive brewery. When you finally escape out to the street, everyone makes fun of your outfit.
Wow, that's gotta chafe. Hey, the Pride Parade was last week.
So you then have to go to the Money Shot laundromat and pick up your normal clothes, which you can pay for, or not. So yeah, the first mission is kind of a doozy. Your second task is simply to vote, so you go to the polling station at Caucasian Finest Mandarin Cuisine and fill out your ballot.
What fucking moron designed this?
Basically, this whole mission is an excuse to make jokes about the Florida recount.
Shit didn't go through all the way, but they can obviously tell what my intention was.
Hey game, your early 2000s is showing again. And finally, you have to go pick up a Christmas tree, so you head to Jethro's Peace Tree Emporium and look around at the offerings.
Not that one. Too dry. You gotta be fucking kidding.
Until you find the perfect tree.
This must be the one.
But even more rednecks show up who want to steal your perfect tree, so another hillbilly battle caps off the day. On Thursday, you're tasked with getting rid of some weeds in your yard, and naturally you decide napalm is the way to do it. So you go to the big-ass napalm factory on the outskirts of town and wander on in to find some. While you're in there though, an employee accidentally pukes on a fuse box and the whole factory starts to go haywire. So now you have to escape with your life through a massive exploding industrial complex. I actually found this to be one of the more interesting missions in the game because rather than just killing the shit out of everyone as usual, it involves some kind of cool platforming sequences reminiscent of Half-Life, where you have to find a safe way out as everything self-destructs around you. Anyway, after that, you have to go pick up a crotchy doll, the hottest new toy in town. So you head to Toys in the Hood, but unfortunately...
We be all sold out and shit.
Yep, they're all out of bad touch crotchies and only have his friend Larry the Crab left. In a pinch, you can just bribe the crotchy mascot to give you the doll, or you can break into the back room of the toy store, kill all the employees, steal the last doll, causing the police to show up, fight the cops, and finally have a big old showdown with Crotchy himself.
You think you can take Crotchy down?
So yeah, a rocket launcher battle in a toy store versus a giant pair of balls is definitely a thing you can do in this game. After that, you have to pick up some steaks. So you go to Meat World, where you accidentally stumble across a gang of homicidal butchers making meat out of people. So you kill your way through a gang of evil meat packers until you find good old-fashioned cow steaks. Of course, the cops have been alerted by now too, so you have to fight your way back out again. And finally, you have to go pay a traffic ticket. So you head to the local police station and pay your fine like a good citizen.
I'm here to pay for this trumped-up addition to some highway patrolman's retirement fund.
Or not. And on Friday, the final day, you have to go get a new alternator for your car. So you head to Mike's J. The J is for junkyard, you fuckball shitpoo.
I need an alternator for an 87 to fuck you.
A helpful employee leads you through the yard to find the part you need. Right as a bunch of rabid pit bulls escape their cages and you have to fight them to get out alive. You then need to pick up a package. So off to the post office you go, where it turns out that someone mailed you a fucking bomb. All the postal workers now think you're a terrorist, so you have to fight them to escape. Then you have to go give your Uncle Dave a birthday present, who, it turns out, is a crazy cult leader with a Waco-like compound currently besieged by the ATF.
Wow, Uncle Dave's having a party.
So you make your way inside the building full of religious nuts as the feds do their best to burn it to the ground. Give Dave his birthday present right as the place gets raided, and then fight your way back out again. Friday is also the only day with an optional bonus mission. See, if you try to take a pee on Friday, it turns out you have gonorrhea. So you add a side trip to the local clinic, find the Vendicure machine,
Please step forward and urinate.
pee in a cup,
Good God, that is disgusting.
and take some pills to cure it. Once you beat all the Friday missions, you win the game, but I'm not going to spoil the ending. Safe to say that it unlocks an in-game cheats menu with all kinds of fun stuff to play around with, as well as the enhanced mode, which lets you replay the game with even more weapons lying around everywhere, as well as ridiculous superpowers like flying using a shovel, the ability to piss napalm, motherfucking telekinesis, and a grenade launcher that fires explosive cats. Altogether, Postal 2 is a pretty unique concept and way more over the top and ridiculous than the original, so it definitely delivers on its goal of being one of the most irreverently insane and violent games ever made. The controversy surrounding the original Postal when it came out back in 1997 immediately propelled Arizona's Running with Scissors, at the time a brand new company, to international infamy, and it was only a matter of time before they came out with a sequel, one that dramatically cranked up both the violence and the black humor of the series to a fucking ludicrous degree. Postal 2 was released 6 years later, and the entire game seemed to be designed to make fun of those who boycotted and protested the first one. As if to say, you think that was offensive? Get a load of this shit. Predictably, it generated even more controversy than the first game, being banned in a bunch of countries like New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Germany, and Sweden, although they fucking loved it in Russia. As with the first game, this ended up helping sales rather than hurting them. The game was a financial success despite getting really lousy reviews from incredibly offended video game critics, and Running with Scissors hasn't stopped making expansion packs and sequels to this day. So what is the appeal of Postal 2? Firstly, this has to be one of the funniest goddamn games I've ever played. The familiar black humor of the original Postal is back, like the dude's sarcastic one-liners.
I suppose it would have been more politically correct to kill the women and the minorities first. You probably thought you weren't gonna die today. Surprise. Damn, here I was minding my own business, just enjoying my Second Amendment rights, and you people have to freak out on me. Now that's what I call welfare reform.
Or the juxtaposition of mass carnage with cheesy shopping mall music. And of course, the marching band from the first game makes their triumphant return as well.
Smells like chicken.
Although this time around, if you don't kill them yourself, Al-Qaeda takes care of it for you. But Postal 2 is all about pushing things way over the top, so the humor is significantly more warped and perverse than before. Like dogs you've befriended will fetch anything you throw, including severed human heads. Or if you behead somebody while they're puking, their body just keeps on puking. And one of the most common inventory items you can pick up are live cats, which can then be used as silencers. I think someone at Running with Scissors doesn't like cats very much.
Say, I'm pretty good at this.
But the humor in Postal 2 isn't limited to just violent, fucked up gags like that. The whole game is just straight up goofy. I swear there's a joke every 10 feet the entire time you're playing. Far too many to list, but here are some of my favorites. The developers constantly break the fourth wall. Your character repeatedly makes fun of the game itself.
I'm sure that seemed intuitive in the design docs.
As well as you, the player.
My grandmother could beat the game if she saved as much as you do.
They even went so far as to program themselves into the game as gun-toting lunatics who have your back. You can find a bunch of ridiculous inventory items like donuts, which can be used to lure cops, or health pipes, which instantly increase your health to 125%.
This can't be good for me, but I feel great.
Although they later give you painful withdrawals.
Health pipe my ass. That stuff is addictive.
There are cans of catnip, which can be used to attract cats if you really need some extra silencers, but it can also be smoked, which makes you trip balls so everything around you moves in slow motion. There's even a rare plugin for the fish finder called Chompy, which turns your radar display into a little minigame where you have to eat the other fish, except it actually kills the people in real life as well. There are a ton of hilarious billboards all over town, like Doorgasm, we'll overhaul your dismantled back door, free greasing, gonorrhea, it's not just for sailors anymore, hey kids, your parents are gonna die, Splatter Pope and Postal Girl. I always appreciate a Splatterhouse reference. Hell, throw a Carmageddon reference in there while you're at it. Also, all of the businesses in town are gags, like the Bates Hotel offering relaxing murder-free showers, the Paradise Book Repository, which features a rather suspicious sniper's nest, Last Action Euro, which I laughed way too hard at, Orifice Depot adult novelties, the Polar Bear Patrol, polar bear free for over 41 years, cause it's fucking Arizona, Sexico, beer, gas, novelties, and lingerie, Big John's Borrowed Baby Bonanza, a nondescript warehouse called Nondescript Warehouse, and the list goes on. There's the Beast Love Pet Store advertising unidentified thing from Alley and Back, New Zealand racing slugs, factory refurbished kittens, and the Rat Monkey from Braindead. They also have a rather suspicious kitchen in the back. And of course, there's Earl's Elephant Ranch and Grill, where you can cause a stampede of angry elephants right through yet another unfortunate marching band. That's not even to mention all the wacky signage all over town. Like the very first road sign you see is "Watch for Psycho Assholes." Baby Jesus says bullets are the seeds of victory in the cult compound. The Anthony Hopkins suite in the jail. The Meat World menu featuring items like trouser snake and stuffed beaver. The Insane Asylum chalkboard reading "Remove brain, get spoon, scoop out pineal gland, get third eye, dominate world." The Running with Scissors game development timeline with milestones like nab bin Laden and buy a Lamborghini. The post office offering delivery by slow-ass boat, and they never skip an opportunity to make fun of Senator Joe Lieberman for trying to ban the first game. The library offers many genres like science fiction, parafiction, semi-fiction, don't ask, porn, and of course, bomb guides and terrorist handbooks. Similarly, the tombstones in the graveyard are dedicated to things that got cut from the game, like staple gun, meat gun, fetuses with guns, teen sniper, rape clowns, and of course, the Postal storyline. Also, this game may have the funniest goddamn achievements list I've ever read. Seriously, just go look it up. They've even added gags that only show up on certain holidays, which is a nod to the original game's Santa Patch, which gave the weapons and enemies a Christmas theme.
Now you'll never get that train set!
So on Valentine's Day, all the characters carry around flowers, and you can go to the kissing booth and pay $5 to kiss the gimp. On St. Patrick's Day, you can spot a little leprechaun guy all over town and try and kill him before he reaches his pot of gold to win a shitload of cash. If you catch him alive, he'll grant a single wish. But of course, they're all tricks. Like if you wish for hot bitches to work your balls, you immediately get attacked by flaming pit bulls. On April Fool's Day, a fake DLC menu shows up with a list of microtransactions like Gary Coleman Romance Path, Uncensored Dude Willy, and Female Dude. But the Postal Dude just talks shit if you actually try and buy anything.
Fuck you.
On Easter, you you can find a secret entrance to a hidden level where you face a magical kung fu Easter bunny in a pretty epic boss battle. And finally, on Halloween, the entire game switches to nighttime, bystanders walk around in costume, ghosts randomly appear, the town gets attacked by skeletons straight out of Army of Darkness, and all the shovels are replaced with plastic devil pitchforks. So for this release, they've clearly thrown the more serious tone of the original game straight out the window and gone for pure ridiculousness and constant gags like it's a David Zucker movie. And I've honestly never laughed harder at a video game. I also really dug the open world concept they went with for Postal 2. The game feels heavily influenced by Grand Theft Auto 3 in that you can roam around and do pretty much whatever you want between completing your errands. There's no time limit whatsoever. I mean, sure, you can beat the whole game in a couple hours if you just run the missions, but with the exception of the annoyingly frequent loading screens, it's pretty damn fun to just explore the town and fuck around. Pro tip, always take the time to jump around on pipes and ducts, or do a high wire act on the power lines. There's all kinds of good shit stashed up on the rooftops. I ended up getting about 13 hours of gameplay out of Postal 2 just because I kept ignoring my daily tasks and finding funny little Easter eggs, like this secret cat garden, this rare copy of Super Postal, and this creepy murder bathroom. And if you have an up-to-date copy of Postal 2, you can even find one of the coolest Easter eggs in video game history. See, back when the game was first released, there was a sign in the mall saying closed for renovation, reopening June 2016, which was a joke since that was 13 years in the future at the time. Well, the developers are still maintaining the game today, so in actual June 2016, a mysterious Terminator-style time travel hole opened up, leading to a secret VR headset that transports you to the future, specifically to a parody of the Steam store in 2016, complete with satirical versions of contemporary video games and a wisecracking cashier.
Hatred is way better.
Okay, so it's mostly just a fancy advertisement for Postal Redux, which was released that year, but the fact that these guys were still adding hidden content to the game 13 years later is impressive. To get back to your own time, you try to grab a sports almanac a la Back to the Future, but of course, you snap back to the 2003 game world right before you reach it.
Well, I suppose that was worth the wait.
So basically, there's all kinds of cool shit to find, and the open world exploration and hidden content adds a lot to the gameplay value. In addition to this, the freedom of choice to play the game as anything between a total pacifist or a complete homicidal maniac adds a bit of depth to the game, and it's not a concept I've seen in many first-person shooters. Pretty much the only place running with scissors drew the line of good taste was violence against children. There are no kids in the game at all, which I think was a good call on their part, but besides that, you're basically free to be as violent and psychopathic as you please. On my first playthrough, I went full mass-murdering lunatic and got awarded the endgame title of Serial Killer on Steroids. But then, just for shits and giggles, I went ahead and replayed the whole game again, this time just minding my own business, completing my tasks, and running away from any danger. And at the end, I earned the title of Jesus. Playing like this is a totally different experience. A lot of calmly walking from place to place, broken up by frantically running from certain death. It felt like a fucking survival horror game at times. I can't say it was nearly as fun, but it's a unique idea for a game to give you this level of freedom in how to complete it. And finally, Postal 2 has one of the most ridiculous arsenals of weaponry I've ever seen in a game. You get all the usual shooter weapons, a pistol, a shotgun, an assault rifle, a sniper rifle, grenades, a rocket launcher, napalm, you know, the standard stuff. But there are also a ton of weird weapons they've included just for shits and giggles. Like the first thing you pick up is a shovel, which can fucking behead people. There are tasers, which are always good for a laugh. You can beat up cops with their own police batons. Cans of gasoline are great because you can not only light people on fire, but also leave puddles and trails of gas and set off some pretty sweet chain reactions. Then there are Molotov cocktails for setting a bunch of shit on fire at once, and you can even kill people by throwing scissors at them. And, possibly the weirdest weapon of all, diseased cow heads, which are so toxic that if you toss one near somebody, they'll puke blood until they die. And that's just the original lineup. Over the years, the devs have added a ton of new weapons, some of their own design, but mostly stuff from fan-made mods like Eternal Damnation and A Week in Paradise that they liked so much they eventually added them to the official game. These days, you can find crazy-ass shit like brass knuckles, butterfly knives, axes, baseball bats that can knock heads clean off, protest signs so you can ironically beat up protesters, hedge clippers that behead people, a fully automatic Glock pistol, a submachine gun, an almost game-breakingly powerful double-barreled shotgun, a grenade launcher, cans of Stinks body spray, which are essentially flamethrowers, sticks of dynamite, nuclear-powered crotchy grenades, and probably my favorite, the motherfucking chainsaw. So yeah, there are a ton of ridiculous weapons to play with. With all that said, there are also some major issues with Postal 2. Firstly, the entire game is buggy as fuck. There are obvious graphical glitches all over the place. You can't go 5 minutes without the game engine doing some clearly unintentional weird shit with the scenery and textures. Sometimes weapons show up in reflections, sometimes they don't, and sometimes stuff appears that isn't even there. Ooh, spooky. Dead bodies randomly get stuck in the walls and ceilings. Some bottles break realistically, and some are inexplicably fucking indestructible. Same thing with props like computers and chairs, which can be kicked around in some areas, but in others seem to be bolted to the damn ground. And don't even get me started on the shitty AI in this game. You'll witness all kinds of bizarre shit, like characters gliding around with their animation completely frozen, people magically shooting at you without raising their gun, dogs overlapping other dogs, which is creepy as fuck, large groups of people suddenly forgetting how to use stairs, and every once in a while somebody will straight up explode for no damn reason at all. Not to mention just getting stuck. The NPCs in this game get stuck on fucking everything. Walls, ladders, doorways, each other. And I know that the whole game is basically a joke, and diehard fans will say that all the glitches add to its charm. To be fair, they are pretty fucking funny at times. But in general, Postal 2 feels incredibly unpolished, like we're still playing a beta after 17 years. The weapon timing and aim are kinda shitty, jumping around and balancing on stuff feels clunky, your running speed feels way too slow, and your walking speed is so fucking lethargic I'm half convinced they intentionally programmed it that way as a joke. Also, there are some pretty bad frame rate drops, even though the computer I'm running this on can easily handle a game this old and my hardware isn't struggling at all, which tells me it's a bug in the game itself. There are even a few areas where you can get completely stuck and have to load your last save game to get out, and a ton of spots where you can easily walk right the fuck to the edge of the map and just stare off into oblivion. So in general, even if it's not meant to be taken seriously, it's objectively a pretty badly programmed game. Also, the graphics kinda suck, even for 2003 standards. Granted, there is some pretty impressive level design to be found in Postal 2, and some of the more industrial areas have a nice gritty vibe reminiscent of the original game. But when it comes to the details, things once again are just really unpolished and shitty. You'll frequently find lousy textures that belong in a game from 10 years earlier. The seams between the different sections of town are hidden by these big ugly brown rock formations that kinda ruin the look of the landscape, and some of the level transitions look embarrassingly fake. A lot of the special effects kinda suck too, like this is supposed to be cigarette smoke, and the in-game map graphic is fucking useless for finding your way around. You'd have better luck using the map found at the fake visitor center, to be honest. Also, the character models are uniquely ugly, with weirdly huge heads and hands, and their interaction with props is pretty unconvincing, like how the entire marching band are playing identical saxophones which are fucking nowhere near their mouths. And again, I know the game wasn't supposed to be taken too seriously, but it still kinda looks like shit. And finally, Postal 2 is, well, just kinda stupid. The original game had a much darker tone, and the humor was far more subtle and sardonic, whereas Postal 2 sometimes feels like it was written by a 13-year-old. It really leans hard into the toilet humor. There are turds lying around everywhere, and of course, you can pee on whatever you want, which is mostly just utilized for dumb gags, like pee on a donut and feed it to a cop to make them puke everywhere. A lot of the humor relies on stereotyping too, like Habib, the Middle Eastern shopkeeper.
Thank you for your unclean visit. Now get out and come again, please.
Or how all the women in town are hot chicks with big boobs. Or the town's gay bar is called Fire in the Hole and is filled with various dancing stereotypes. And to be clear, I'm not really offended by any of this. The developers obviously meant it all as a big dumb joke, but that's kind of my point. It's dumb as hell. My inner 13-year-old still gets quite a few laughs out of this kind of shit, but grown-up Rufus definitely prefers the biting sarcasm of the original game over pee-pee poo-poo queers titties balls. But I would be lying if I said that, despite its many faults, Postal 2 wasn't incredibly fun to play. So in my book, it gets 8 decapitated Gary Coleman's out of 10. If you're not too easily offended and need to blow off some steam, or at least have a good laugh, I highly recommend it. Now, Postal 2 was originally released back in 2003 as a CD-ROM for old-ass Windows and Mac computers. The good news is that Running with Scissors has consistently maintained their games over the years, and Postal 2 has been updated and re-released many times in various compilations. Currently, you can find it, bundled with its 2 original expansion packs, on Steam for just $10, and it's been updated to work with modern Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. Sadly, no version for mobile or console, but stick it on your computer and earn yourself a ticket straight to hell. Or heaven. Either way, links below.
I regret nothing.
I mean, come on, what's not to love about that? Till next time, boys and girls, don't kill your grandmas.